Leviticus Chapter 11. Then Jehovah spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying to them, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the animals which you may eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatever has a divided hoof, that is, has its hoof split in two, and choose the cud among the beasts, that you may eat. However, these you shall not eat, of those that only chew the cud or of those that only have a divided hoof, the camel, for though it chews the cud, it does not have a divided hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hyrax, for though it chews the cud, it does not have a divided hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, for though it chews the cud, it does not have a divided hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, for though it has a divided hoof, that is, it has its hoof split in two, it does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor shall you touch their carcasses, they are unclean to you. These you may eat of all that are in the water, anything in the water that has fins and scales, in the seas or in the rivers, these you may eat. But anything that does not have fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of anything that swarms in the waters and of any living animal which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you. And they shall be an abomination to you, you shall not eat of their flesh, and their carcasses you shall regard as an abomination. Anything in the water that does not have fins or scales is an abomination to you. And these you shall regard as an abomination among the birds, they shall not be eaten, they are an abomination, the great vulture and the bearded vulture and the black vulture. And the kite and the falcon of every kind. Every raven of every kind. And the ostrich and the nighthawk and the sea gull and the hawk of every kind. And the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl. And the screech owl and the pelican and the carrion vulture. And the stork, the heron of every kind and the hoopoe and the bat. All flying insects that go on all fours are an abomination to you. Yet these you may eat of all flying insects that go on all fours, which have legs above their feet with which to leap on the earth. These of them you may eat, the swarming locust of every kind and the swallowing locust of every kind and the cricket of every kind and the grasshopper of every kind. But all the other flying insects which have 4 feet are an abomination to you. And by these you shall become unclean, whoever touches their carcass shall be unclean until the evening. And whoever carries any part of their carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. For every beast which has a divided hoof but does not have its hoof split in two or chew the cud is unclean to you, everyone who touches them shall be unclean. And whatever goes on its paws, among all beasts that go on all fours, are unclean to you, whoever touches their carcass shall be unclean until the evening. And the one who carries their carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening, they are unclean to you. And these are unclean to you among the swarming things that swarm on the earth, the weasel and the mouse and the great lizard of every kind. And the gecko and the land crocodile and the lizard and the sand lizard and the chameleon. These are unclean to you among all the swarming things, whoever touches them when they are dead shall be unclean until the evening. And anything on which one of them may fall when they are dead shall be unclean, whether it is any article of wood or clothing or skin or sackcloth, any article which is used for any work must be put into water, and it shall be unclean until the evening, then it shall be clean. And any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever is in it shall be unclean, and the vessel you shall break. Any food that could be eaten shall be unclean if water from such a vessel comes upon it, and any liquid that may be drunk shall be unclean if it was in any such vessel. And everything on which part of their carcass falls shall be unclean. An oven or a stove shall be broken in pieces, they are unclean and shall continue to be unclean to you. Nevertheless a spring or a cistern collecting water shall be clean, but whatever touches their carcass shall be unclean. And if any part of their carcass falls on any seed for sowing, which is to be sown, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed, and any part of their carcass fall on it, it is unclean to you. And if any beast which you have for food dies, the one who touches its carcass shall be unclean until the evening. And he who eats some of its carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. The one who carries its carcass shall also wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Now every swarming thing that swarms upon the earth is an abomination, it shall not be eaten. Whatever goes on its stomach and whatever goes on all fours, or whatever has many feet, even all the swarming things that swarm on the earth, you shall not eat them, for they are an abomination. You shall not make yourselves abominable with any swarming thing that swarms, nor shall you make yourselves unclean with them, and so become defiled by them. For I am Jehovah your God. Sanctify yourselves therefore, and be holy, for I am holy. And you shall not defile yourselves with any of the swarming things that move upon the earth. For I am Jehovah, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God, you shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the beast and of the bird, and of every living animal that moves in the waters, and of every creature that swarms upon the earth. To make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. Leviticus Chapter 12. Then Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, If a woman conceives seed and bears a male child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, as in the days of her menstruation, she shall be unclean. And on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. And she shall remain in the blood of her purifying 33 days, she shall not touch any sanctified thing, nor come into the sanctuary, until the days of her purifying are fulfilled. But if she bears a female, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her impurity, and she shall remain in the blood of her purifying 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled, for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a year-old lamb for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle-dove for a sin offering to the priest to the entrance of the tent of meeting. And he shall present it before Jehovah and make expiation for her, and she shall be cleansed from the flow of her blood. This is the law for her who bears a child, whether male or female. And if she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle-doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make expiation for her, and she shall be clean.